cut it.
All right, we're recording.
All right. Hey everyone, so welcome to this session of our monthly class. And of course, we're going to be talking about winter gardens and what does a winter garden look like. So I know there's two of you right now. Are either one of you, we've got another person.
No, there's 8 people now, Mom.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh, Dad's there too. Welcome everyone. I'm very excited to have you guys here. We're going to be talking about winter gardens, and I would love to see a show of hands for anybody that's already put a winter garden together already, or is this like their first time ever doing a winter garden? Can I just have you guys raise your hand and tell me, is this your first time?
This is our first time.
Yeah, if it's your first time, raise your hand so I know. All right, so we've got some newbies. I kind of wanted to talk about, of course, you know, we're talking about growing vegetables all the time. And yes, it's about growing food, but really growing our food is a much deeper, there's a much deeper, much spiritual side to it. So it follows, winter gardens are following like the cycles of the earth. On this planet, we have so many cycles. We have, you know, so many seasons, and the plants have adapted to these rhythms of the planet. So in the springtime, for instance, the energy is all about renewal and about coming out of hibernation. And that's kind of like where we're at too. So even for us in the springtime, we feel very like we're ready to like emerge from this darkness of the winter. And in the summertime is when we're really energized, and that's when we really come out and, you know, the plans that we want to put together, you know, it's a time, it's a high energy time, and everything is very vibrant and very vivacious. And you know, you see it in the way what's growing. You grew a lot of big fruity stuff. You know, you'll have eggplants and tomatoes and pumpkins and summer squashes and just big things. So it's all about like juicy and fruitful. So the energy is very, very high and going. And then in the fall again, the energy of the planet and of even of our bodies, it's all about, again, going inward and going a little bit more dormant, a little bit more resting, and a little bit more meditative almost. So this is a time when we've been through this high energies, almost like our day. We wake up in the morning, we're ready to go, action, action, action. By night, we're winding down and our energy is going down, and it's time to rest and recharge again. So winter and fall energy, the kind of vegetables that we grow during this season, they're all very nourishing, very rejuvenating, and very healing. You know, it's a resting energy in there. So you'll see that even in what grows in wintertime. In wintertime, you're going to see everything that's growing very close to the earth or in the earth. So this is a time for, you know, all of your radishes and your beets and your carrots and your turnips, any rutabaga and celeriac and parsnips, like all of these root vegetables, it's their time. It's the energy, they're drawing the energy of the earth, and they're filling that energy of the earth into themselves, and then that's what we're eating. And that's why even in the winter time, when we have the soups and we have these hearty vegetables, we feel very nourished with them. So it's also all about like leafy greens. So all your leafy greens, they're all growing close to the ground. And so this is the time that you'll see all the spinach and the kale and the Swiss chard and fenugreek. And, you know, we in the American culture, we have a very narrow selection of vegetables. But if you explore other cultures, you'll see a diverse number of greens, a diverse number of, you know, vegetables, many that we have not seen. And they're all really delicious. So when you're planning your fall and winter garden, look at some of the things you love to eat and look at some of the things that maybe you could try new. So, you know, try something new every year. And if you like it, make it a part of your staple. So basically, I wanted to kind of go over the energy of winter so that you understand, because a lot of times people don't understand what grows in the winter, what grows in the summer. And so this is a good way of kind of understanding. So wintertime, fall time, the energy of earth is drawing inward. And so it's everything that's low to the ground and in the ground. And you can probably recognize that, you know, by the description I just gave.
Farmer Manju?
Yes?
Okay, I just want to let you know. We'd
Yeah.
love to hear introduction of who you are.
Oh, sorry, forgot about that.
And I also want to let you know. Hi everyone. I'm here just to make sure everything started well for my mom. We also have our board member Evelyn here, and so she's going to be directing some of the questions during the conversation here. So if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat. And Evelyn, Evelyn will be directing the questions to my mom, because she's on her phone, so she can't see everything, see all of you at once and see all the chats at once. So we're going to try to do this a little bit differently than you do with me. But other than that, thank you for coming and joining us here again. I'm going to pass it back to Farmer Manju, and hopefully she gives herself an introduction here.
Yes. So all of you know, I am Rishi's mom, and I'm basically the farm manager at Sarvodaya. I basically manage all of the day-to-day operations that are going on in the farm, and taking care of most of the propagation that we do in the nursery. So when you come down and you purchase your trees, your shrubs, your herbs, you'll be working with me, and I usually will give you a lot of guidance as far as making sure that you grow it successfully. And so I'm also putting together a lot of programs at the farm right now, and we're looking at how to activate the farm. So we'd like everybody to have the farm experience in the city. So it's a lot of us don't really experience what it's like to be on a farm, and so that's what we are looking to create, is a space where you can come and you can do different activities. We've got art club starting that we've been working on. I'm looking for artists that will come and teach you art on the farm. So looking for different artists. Then it'll be an outdoor experience instead of an indoor experience. We're also creating a kitchen space where people can come with their families. They can either hire a chef to cook for them, or they can gather together and cook. They can use the produce at the farm. So we're setting up a little kitchen area over there, and then we'll have space if you just, you know, need some time to yourself and you just want to, you know, sit and relax for a little while, you know, find a little nook where you can meditate or do you know, your yoga practice or read a book. We've got spaces that we're developing where you can come and just relax. We have a huge library of gardening books that Farmer Rishi has collected. So if any of you want to come and take us up on that, we are currently working on those type of projects. Okay, so I think I will continue with my winter vegetable introduction. So one of the things about winter vegetables are that they are adapted to more cold and they're adapted to less light. So you'll notice that these vegetables tend to do better in the cold weather. When I started farming first, I was quite puzzled at like, how do we get cilantro in the summertime? Like, it doesn't grow very well in the summer. And you can grow it in the summer. It's a little bit more difficult to grow it. You have to make sure, you know, you protect it and keep it cool. But in general, you know, we tend to not know what seasonal vegetables are anymore because we don't understand that, because all of the vegetables that we eat are usually available all year round. It is, I think it's very appropriate to eat seasonal vegetables just because if you understand the cycles of the planet and the kind of energy that the planet wants to give you, when you are more in alignment with that energy, so you eat more seasonal, it's, I think, better for your health. You're also eating fresher food, so it's also very, very nurturing for our bodies. So normally there is a limit to winter vegetables as well. So winter vegetables mostly will thrive, you know, for as long as like it's like 40 degrees. Some vegetables will take 35 degrees. So we do have to watch for freezing temperatures and chill on a lot of our vegetables. 40 is like ideal for them. If it gets any lower than that, then you might want to consider protecting them with some kind of cover crop, or, you know, do some kind of a hoop house. Are most of you located in California? Can I just see? Okay. All right. So being in California, we're very, very lucky. We can pretty much grow all year round. We don't have to worry about snow. And there's a lot of vegetables that we can grow in this season. And I'll just name some of them for you. So things like parsley and spinach and kale and lettuce and radishes and beets, bok choy, arugula, and a lot of different lettuces, peas, fava beans. So a lot of these are what we can grow. My strategy when I'm growing fruits or vegetables is I like to see what is expensive in the market. What do I eat a lot of? So for instance, garlic and onion are pretty, you know, organic garlic and onion are pretty expensive in the market. And they have a very long life. So when you grow things like, you know, garlic and onion, you have the capacity of like growing quite a bit of it, because organic garlic can cost, I think, close to $10, $11, maybe even higher sometimes a pound. So it's great to grow something that you use a lot of and then also has an ability to be stored. I'm not sure exactly how much space all of you guys have. Is anybody going to be growing, if you're going to be growing in pots, can you raise your hand? If you're growing in pots.
Yeah, I'm growing in pots, and also I just got a raised bed right now.
What's that?
I just purchased a raised bed, and I also have some pots. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, all right. If you happen to have a balcony and you're growing in pots and you have limited space, you know, your strategy could be more greens. It could be things, you don't want to be planting cabbage and cauliflower because they take up too much space, and you know, you harvest it one time and you're done. Although broccoli is, if you learn how to prune it correctly, then you can continue to eat from the same broccoli plant for a much longer time, where things like cabbage and cauliflower are like a one-time deal. You cut it and then you're kind of done. So your strategy, if you're going to be growing in pots, or if you have small spaces, you want to grow things, of course, that you want to eat. So, but if you grow leafy stuff, like if you grow lettuces and chard and fenugreek and kale, like all of these greens, you don't have to harvest the whole plant. You can just remove the outer leaves of the plant and continue to eat it. Where you can grow some root vegetables, something like you can do carrots, you can do beets, because the beets are very the leaves are very edible as well, so they kind of work like chard. So instead of planting Swiss chard, you could plant beets and you could keep eating the beet greens while the beet is getting larger. And then as when it gets to a nice size where you want to eat the beet, then you can harvest the beet, and at that time you will have a much longer lifespan of that plant. Now, things like radishes are really easy to grow. They grow very fast, and you can eat them in as little as like 26 days. Will eating beet greens slow down the growth of the roots? Okay, I have that question. Nope, it will not grow down as long as you don't take all the leaves off. So your beet will have lots of leaves, and as long as you always leave enough leaves for the beets, you can go ahead and continue eating that. You can also have the strategy of growing like microgreens. Microgreens are like salad greens, or it can be other kind of greens where you can just grow them densely, and then you harvest them with a scissors and just allow it to regrow. So whenever you do harvest microgreens, you never want to cut them down too far. You always want to leave at least an inch or so that it has enough energy to make more food and keep coming back. So things like, if you grow things like bok choy, you can, you know, in the store, you always find bok choy as a whole head, but when you're growing it at home, you can just harvest the outer leaves. And even if you were to cut the bok choy all the way, like let's say you were to take the bok choy and just cut it straight, and just leave the root, like leave about a half an inch on the root, that will regrow into another bok choy. It'll take a little longer, but you can, if you continue to just eat the outer leaves, you will get a much more of them.
Excuse me, On
Okay.
the microgreens, do you grow it inside or outside?
You can do both. You can grow them inside or outside. And you can even grow them in just trays. So they have little trays that you can buy for, or you can make yourself a little tray, whatever size that would fit in your space. They don't need to be very high. It can just be like maybe an inch and a half or two, just enough, because you're not really growing a full head of anything. You're just going to be growing just for the top leaves, and you'll be able to harvest from it maybe two or three times. And then after that, it will be spent. So it's always good to make like maybe a bunch of trays, and then you can start a tray every week, and that'll give you like a progression of continual greens. So I just wanted to cover briefly what kind of vegetables you can grow, and now let's get into what are we going to do
Manju,
with soil. Yeah.
we have another question. My
Yeah.
raised beds are 3 by 6 feet and each have 2 berry plants. Can I grow
Correct.
greens around them within the area of the beds that's free? So the raised beds are 3 by 6 and have berry plants.
Buried plants?
Yes.
Buried plants. What does that mean, buried plants? What is she growing? Is it berry, like B-E-R-R-Y?
Yes.
Oh, she's got berry plants. Okay. Yeah, as long as there's space around the berry plants, you can grow on there. So one of the most important lessons that I have learned as a gardener is that it's very important to feed your plants on a very regular basis. I used to think that it was enough to just feed it twice a season. So every time I would lay down a new crop, I would, add compost, add my nutrients, and say, okay, now I'm done, right? But what I've found is, yes, it's very, very important when you start your season. You go ahead and add new compost, add kelp meal, add some rock dust. So you want to amend your soil, get it ready, and then plant into that. But more than that, once time feeding, what I have found is that a foliar spray, a regular weekly foliar spray, helps keep the pests down, the fungal issues down, and it just gives the plants a lot more vigor so that you don't have to struggle so much. And it made me think about that even for ourselves. We all feed ourselves on a regular basis. We're eating 3 meals a day. Okay, I'm going to answer this question in a little while. We eat 3 meals a day, and we eat daily. And so for my plants, what I found is that we use a fish emulsion and fish and seaweed emulsion by Neptune's Harvest. This is something new that we started, and I've been doing a foliar spray with this on a weekly basis, and I have found my vegetable garden, it had so much vigor and so much health throughout the summer. It was able to take the intense heat. It was able to stay without any disease. I had no disease issue. Normally, you get a lot of fungal issues, and you get a lot of aphid issues and leaf miner issues. And I had none of them because from the very start, I gave them a very strong start with nutrients. So for instance, in my tomatoes, I prepped all of the holes before I planted my tomatoes. So one day before I prepped all the holes, I added kelp meal to it, mixed it in, and then the next day I went in and I planted my tomatoes over there, and I gave it weekly foliar sprays starting from then. They were doing so well that I did not stop, and I noticed that when I finally did stop, which was about 6 weeks ago, that the plant succumbed to all kinds of issues almost immediately. So I have a question over here, and let me see if I can figure out how to get to it. Oops.
Would you like me to read it?
Yeah,
Yes.
could you read it, please?
One question is, I use a foliar spray and I have noticed leaf spotting after I apply it. Any advice for this? And additionally, can you talk about how to apply foliar spray to fruit, trees, and veggies?
Okay. So normally whenever you apply foliar spray, you want to apply it in the cool part of the morning. And if you are getting spots, I have 2 questions to ask you. One is, what product are you using and what time of the day are you applying it? So if you could answer that for me, that will help.
Neptune, the same one
Okay.
that you use, and the time varies.
Time varies. So if you happen to be applying it maybe like, let's say, very late at night and there's too much water on the plant, if it's left damp, you could have some issues with that. So if you can apply it in the morning and apply it you know, so it has time to dry and evaporate, so it's not leaving your leaves dry, any damp, you know, leaving them damp.
Excuse me, I have a question regarding the fish emulsion, the spray. I read on the instructions that once you make, I mean, you cannot keep it, just use it, put it in the spray bottle, and then you gotta make a new one? Or how does it work?
Yeah, I make mine weekly. So I make mine weekly and I use it up. So depending on how much you are going to be using, you know, like just make enough that you can feed your plants. Also, if you have extra that you haven't used up, maybe you made too much, I keep mine in the refrigerator. Of course, I have the luxury of having a really giant walk-in refrigerator. You might not want to do that in yours. And also, you keep your fish emulsion, once it's opened, you keep it in the refrigerator. Don't leave it out in the hot sun. So take care of.
That's the reasoning, huh? That you don't want it to have in hot temperatures, warm temperatures, huh? Okay.
Yeah, because it is fish. You know, it's fish. It's you know, it's a bioactive material.
I see.
And so yeah, you always want to keep things like that. Even like if you were have any kind of like neem oil, you know, and it's better just to keep things in refrigeration or in a cool spot. But I personally like to keep it in refrigeration, especially once it's opened. So it prolongs its life.
Thank you.
It's a good point you brought that up, because I haven't been sharing that with anybody, so I have to remember to do that. Seeds.
Unfortunately, they don't say anything of that on the instruction, you know. I wish they did that, you know.
Yes, yes, yes. Sometimes we just have to kind of, for me, I just, because we normally, if we were to buy fish or if we were to keep any kind of an animal product, you would not leave it outside. And so, yeah, you're right. The instructions would definitely say so. It lasts a lot better for sure when you put it in refrigeration. Keeps better. Otherwise, it gets a really horrible smell in the sun. And when it heats up, it's like stinks like really bad. So questions about seeds. Where do you get your seeds? There's a lot of great companies where you can get your seeds. Did you guys want me to give you a list of where you can buy seeds? There's a lot of online catalogs that you can get. And if you have a very, very small garden, then you can always go to Home Depot and look at their organic selection. But if you want some, recommendations of companies, so there's some really great companies out there like Renee's Garden and Johnny's Selected Seeds and High Mowing organic seeds. I can maybe see if there's a way to send you guys a list of the seed companies that we would recommend.
Manju?
Are you
Rishi put that list in the seed starting pamphlet that he
Okay.
gave everybody in the last time.
okay? Cool.
So if nobody has that, then go get that and you'll have the list.
Awesome.
Have you, I haven't looked at it, Jacqueline, do you know if it indicates the parts of the country? Because like I'm in Portland, Oregon area, somebody else might be in LA or,
I don't think so, but I think it's easy enough to go online and just type in those names and it'll come up. It'll
okay.
give it to you.
Yeah, you should
That would be
able
the way
to- You're in Portland, Oregon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Portland, Oregon. I think you could look for adaptive seeds,
Oh, okay.
and you can also look for wild garden seed.
Okay.
Those two, I think, are in Oregon.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Does anybody have any of the newbies? Like, I'd like to hear from them, and if you have any questions about like how to get started, can you ask me your questions? I'd like to make sure the ones that are newbies that have never done anything at all. Please request access if you don't already have it. Do we have any questions from any of the people who have never done a winter garden before and how to get started?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is it ever too late to start seeding any of these vegetables?
So right now is the perfect time to get started. We could have actually started even a little bit earlier, but if you had started a little bit earlier, you would have had to have space where you can start your seedlings in a cool place, because there's no way that anything would have survived. I don't know where you guys are all at, but here in California, it's really hot still. I mean, we're still having 100-degree days in LA. So I have not started my winter garden at all, but normally around October is when you want to start sowing your seeds for winter, and then you keep them in a shaded, cool place. But it's not too late at all. You can still start. Like, it's the perfect time to plant your garlic and onions. And if you've not ever done it before, like, even just go to the store, to the organic garlic section, and just buy yourself a few bulbs take them apart and just to sow them. But typically you do want to get varieties that are suited for California. But just as an experiment, if you've never done a garden before, like right now is the time to plant them, and you're not too late at all. Still, you can still go and plant peas and plant lettuces. We've got plenty of time for that. Does anybody have any questions on soil?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Farmer Manju, this is a question about leafy greens.
Yes.
How do we deal with aphids? Water spray and ladybugs didn't work.
Water spray and ladybugs didn't work. So the ladybugs are a very sexually active bug. One ladybug will produce 50 babies every 10 days that are already impregnated and will have babies again in 10 days. So you can imagine they're so sexually active that they produce like crazy. So the moment that you see the first bunch of ladybugs, so just, you know, most of us don't have huge gardens, so we can be a little bit attentive. Just use your fingers and just crush them with your fingers and just manage. If it gets too heavy of an infestation, just remove that entire leaf. I also think that maybe, you know, reduce the amount of nitrogen that you are supplying. Maybe your soil is too high in nitrogen. Maybe you need to reduce that in the soil, like maybe a little bit, make it a little less. I've found that sometimes cutting back on compost has helped me. We were applying, I think, my soil, I think at one point had become so rich that I felt like maybe, you know, there was just too much nutrients in the leaf, and maybe the aphids and the bugs came in to kind of balance that out. So I cut back on the compost, and it seemed to balance. But of course, as your garden matures also, you will have less bug pressure. And do try, like from the get-go, start doing the foliar spray and do it on a weekly basis and see how that works for you. But crush them as soon as you find them, because they are really, really very active. So if you just destroy them and have like less that they can create. Any other questions?
Manju,
Yeah. Have you tried the garlic spray to boil the garlic cloves and then apply that concoction, you know, to the plants? Try to avoid, you know, those pests.
Have you tried the garlic spray? I have not tried the garlic spray. And so
Yeah.
I have no experience with the garlic spray. Has
Yeah.
anybody tried it? Maybe in the group, that maybe they can let us know their experience for aphids, or is there anybody in the group aphid experience and how they deal with it? I don't think so. I think try the foliar spray. If you guys have not done it this season, get the Neptune's Harvest and just do a very regular weekly spray. And you don't have to douse the plant. You're just applying a mist over the entire plant so that it's covering it. It's a very bioactive product, so it leaves a very protective film on top of the leaves. and it helps to combat a lot of pests. So I've found it to be very helpful in the summer garden, and I'm planning to doing the same thing in the winter garden. So I would love to hear you guys try it, and then you can convene again and see what your experiences with aphids the next season. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Manju, this was like spring and summer, but now I'm going to do some greens in the winter here. And what I found, well, my patio that was on the northwest side, and I'm sure I'll be planting on the northeast. I'll be doing it on the southwest side because I won't have to worry about the heat. But I just found that the roots didn't grow. It's like the leaves, it germinated really fast, and then everything looked green and wow, it's growing, and then it just stopped. And after 2 or 3 months, I eventually pulled various things up, greens, all kinds of things. And I was like, there was hardly any roots at all. So I don't know what I need to add to the soil probably to shift that.
Calcium. You need calcium.
Calcium?
Calcium.
And
calcium.
How would I do that?
So kelp meal will give you calcium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So
then there's also
kelp.
excuse me?
I was using a liquid kelp occasionally, watering with, but I wasn't using very much at all.
Okay. So you're probably low, the soil was probably low in calcium. That's why, like, when I initially put a plant into when I first plant it, I make sure that I have some kelp in with each one, especially, I think the last few years I've been doing this with my beets and my tomatoes, and my beets have been like that big. They've been really big. So the calcium has made a huge difference. And I had a comparison going on. So I had basically started 2 flats of beets. I put one in somewhere around March. And then the other one, I just didn't get it. I just kept putting it off. And then I finally got in the bed in like around June. But the ones that I got in June, that's when I had discovered, kelp meal, and I had put in each hole, like I had put kelp and then planted the beet in there. And they were the biggest, juiciest, the most delicious beets that I had grown to date. And so since then, I realized that calcium is like a really important nutrient for us. It really promotes like strong root growth. And when we're doing root vegetables, which is winter is all about root vegetables, then applying kelp will really help.
Great. And also, I haven't got it yet, but it's going to be delivered. I got some glacier rock. So that would be super high mineral. So would that be a good to just put a little bit? I'm guessing very little, maybe a tablespoon or something.
You probably will have some instructions on that box, so I would try that first. The one thing that I kind of want to go over, which I find is really important, we'll go back to the feeding part of it. We in our diet, we focus on eating fats and proteins and carbs, right? And those are what we eat in the maximum quantity. But we still understand that we need vitamins and minerals, and we need all the trace minerals. We don't need them in like huge quantities, but we have to have each one of them in trace quantities. So the entire periodic table, everything that's in there, zinc, copper, like whatever is there, we need trace amounts of all of that. Otherwise, something is amiss. And when something is amiss, then it puts something else amiss. So it's very, very important for that reason, to do things like seaweed and kelp, because those are providing you There's also Seed Crop, which is another product that we carry. And that's providing you with all those trace minerals. You don't need a lot of them. And you can test it on your plants because each one of us is going to have different soil. So you'll have to test it and see, like, do I need a little bit more, or do I, is this performing for me? If it's not, like, maybe you can try a little bit more to see if that helps, or just adjust it. But we need to understand that, yeah, we need both macronutrients, we need both micronutrients in order for everything to come together. And we need to eat regularly. So it's very important to treat them just like you would your children. You make sure that your children eat at the right time and they eat regularly. And so vegetables are like these princesses that we have cultivated. And they're not wild, they're not like weeds, unless we learn how to eat weeds, which is also, in winter, there'll be plenty of weeds that if you want to eat weeds, you can allow them to grow. You can eat nettles, you can eat mallow. There's in the summertime, there's lamb's quarter and amaranth. I mean, you don't have to do anything to them, they just keep giving. But our cultivated vegetables are like princesses, and we need to take care of them. So they need us.
Great, thank you.
Farmer
So-
Manju, there are 2 questions in the chat.
Yeah.
1, do you recommend getting a soil test? And 2, when is the best time to water and how often?
Okay. A soil test, it would depend on, like, if I'm growing in pots and stuff, no. If you have a huge plot of land and you have any doubts about, like, if there's any kind of doubts on why you don't know what the nutritional content is, yeah, then definitely get a soil test done. It's good to know what's in your soil and what's lacking. But if you're growing in, like, a raised bed and you're going to be getting compost and by the way, I'm not sure if Rishi has covered. Did Rishi have a cover potting soil? Has he covered potting soil mix with you guys already?
Yes, he has.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, if you're making a good potting mix, then I don't think you need a soil test. You just need to, feed the soil on a regular basis and you should be fine. But yeah, if you have a large property, you have any kind of doubts, maybe there was somebody doing some chemical, maybe they were dousing the property with weed killer or ant killer, or or maybe you just want to know what the nutritional content is of your soil, then yes, definitely get a soil test done. And what was the other question?
Yeah, I have a question. I live in the valley, in Van Nuys, and it's very hot. I just purchased that raised bed, and I put a shade cloth. It's 40%. Is that I did okay doing that?
Ooh, that is a question that you probably want to ask Farmer Rishi.
Okay.
I don't know which shade cloth we're using. In the valley, it's getting like 115 or so right now, or did this
97 today.
97 today? And so, how much light is are you currently doing 40%?
Yeah, the one that I'm using right now is 40%.
And did you find that, Rodolfo, did you find that to be helpful? Like, did the lower the temperatures, are your vegetables doing good? Are they getting enough sunlight?
Yeah, it did, but I guess the location I put north-south orientation, and the south is getting a little, from the end that is open, it's getting a little sun, a little too hot on the seeds. So I noticed that in the middle and the tomatoes in the other end, at the north end, they're okay. So I guess I had to make a little shade on that side for the.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, when you're doing your planting also, like this year I planted my tomatoes because I know that, you know, every year, every summer is going to get hotter and hotter. Like it just keeps getting hotter. So, you know, I don't think there's any plant that likes that much heat. So you have to devise ways of how do you create some filtered shade. So for instance, I located, you know, which part of my property is like the coolest and doesn't get like sun all day long and get some relief from the shade. So I planted my tomatoes in that area and they did really well. And I also pruned them a lot. So this year I pruned my tomatoes to make sure that they were well ventilated and they weren't overcrowded and congested. Because a lot of times if there's too much foliage and a lot of energy going into just creating new suckers, you lose a lot of the tomatoes, you know. And also it breeds pests, like you'll get the squash bug getting in there, and the bugs just have places to hide better. So it's good to like just open it up and not, you know, not become super compacted and dense, so that, you know, the bugs have a place to like hide and you know, they stay protected. So find cool spot. The other thing strategy you can do is plant trees like moringa around, you know, to offer you like diffused light. So plant things that will take some of that beating but offer some of that protection to your plants. This year I grew squash, and underneath my squash I grew cilantro and peppers, because peppers don't like to be hot. And so what I did is I pruned my squash, did not allow it to cover the peppers or the cilantro, so they were kind of growing above the cilantro and the peppers, so they were giving enough protection to these other plants that, you know, needed more protection. So just when you're growing things, think about like how they grow and what kind of companions could help reduce some of the stress. So I don't know if maybe some of you have been, you know, growing for a while. I found, for instance, broccoli and lettuce does really good together to help prevent some pests. So you'll come up, you know, with your own strategies, but look up planting companions, you know, and look to see what they recommend, and then try some of your own as well. You know, like go, you know, use your gut and try. You know, you look at the growth pattern of a vegetable, and then, you know, if they need more protection, just try to like see what you can grow together. Is there any other questions?
Anju, I have a question.
Sorry. One question in the chat that's been waiting is, I think in general, it was in response to when you were talking about feeding your children plants, but when is the best time to water and how often?
So the best time to water is in the summertime, probably in the morning, early morning, and then it's good to have micro sprinklers throughout the day. If you can give your plants a little bit of a mist. In the wintertime, definitely way before nightfall, you want to allow for at least 3 or 4 hours, so whatever moisture could be landing on the leaves, they have time to dry off. So mornings tend to be generally, like early mornings tend to be like generally the best time to water. especially I would say in the winter time. And was there another part of that question, or did I answer that?
I believe you answered it.
Okay, cool.
Manju, I had a question. I had I had come out to the nursery and I have gotten a Freedom Blackberry and a fig and a lemon guava, and I've been just sort of waiting for it to cool down to plant and trying to get the soil ready, but also trying to figure out. I was initially going to keep them, or sort of try to keep them in pots, but I think I've found space for them, but in the ground, which I'd prefer. But a couple of things. So the Freedom Blackberry, like I've been looking online, all three of them, to try to get an idea of like size, first of all. So with the Freedom Blackberry, and I guess the fig too, how large, and I know I can kind of determine that a little bit by pruning them, keeping it under control, but are there any things to watch out for? I thought of this as you're talking about the filtered light. Like I have a few spots if I put them in the ground, but some are on, at least in the summer, it would be sort of near the house, like a fairly hot place, like a sunny, very sunny spot. And does the Freedom Blackberry need some kind of like structure or something like that? That would be my question. Those are my questions.
Okay, so I think you said you had a guava, a fig, and the Freedom Berry. And all three of them can take full sun.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'll be fine. I have the Prime Freedom in full sun, and I planted them early in the spring, so I got them in before the heat, and so they're thriving. They're doing really well. The canes are going to get big. I think they can get to maybe 5 or 6 feet. They're pretty thick canes. I would still support them a little bit, so I kind of grew them against a trellis. And so I'm helping them, I don't want them to like flop over, so I'm kind of loosely tying them together, not like tightly, but so that they all have their breathing space, the canes. But they, you know, they look like a giant spray, like a big bouquet of something. So they're held together, but not squeezed together. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then, yeah, okay. I'm just.
And the fig, you need to worry about frost more than you need to worry about the heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which I don't think I have much. I'm in East Hollywood area.
Okay.
You know, not really something. But I wanted, just because the areas are, I no longer have like areas where it just can grow as large as it wants to. I have like smaller.
Yeah, you can manage all three of them to the height.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Great, thank you.
And you will get, you probably, your Freedom Berry will give you suckers. So yeah, you'll have like new plants pop up, and then you can, dig them out, and you can either sell them back to me, or you can.
Okay.
or you
can
give them to your friends as gifts.
Oh, it's good to know. So you do get you get suckers coming up. So be on the lookout for them. Okay.
Yeah, they'll have a little spreading nature, so you shall have more.
Okay. The one other quick question about the spraying, the foliar. So would that be something I also want to use on, fruit, sort of fruit trees, or not large fruit trees anyway?
I would say I have not done the fruit trees. I think fruit trees, especially when they're established, they do pretty good. This in general is more for vegetables.
Okay.
But I'm not saying never spray your trees either, especially because, you know, sometimes you will notice, like my mango tree had some fungal issues. So it does us benefit to make sure that our trees also receive the benefits of micronutrients. So seed crop, a foliar spray, you don't have to do it weekly. Maybe you could do it, I don't know, twice a year or 3 times a year. You know, it'll definitely benefit them to have a foliar spray than to not have anything at all.
The two, I have like a dwarf Meyer lemon that's been in the ground for quite a while, and a small, like a sweet lime, like a Persian lime that's actually in a pot that's not as old. And both of them, some areas have beautiful green leaves that are just perfect. And then also those leaves that are they just get like so crinkly, like something is going on. I don't know if that's
aphid, probably aphids.
But it's hard to see them. So
yeah.
Like, is it aphids? Is it something?
Yeah, usually you can check underneath. Normally I've seen in citrus, if it's curling up like you're saying, there's usually some aphids in there that are causing, but they don't knock a tree out or anything like that. You can just go ahead and remove those curled leaves and it'll be fine.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Do we have any other questions, or are we?
Yes, I have a question. I bought a golden berry from you, and I have it in a grow bag, 10 gallon grow bag, and I put a trellis, and it's already about halfway on the trellis, not less than halfway, like a quarter. How big is gonna grow? How do I maintain it?
Okay. You're going into winter, so your production is going to be lower right now. You're going to get more production when there's more summer. Did any of the fruit start to form on yours?
No, right? No fruit yet.
Okay. It kind of grows similar to a tomato, you know, but it's not. The stalks are not as thick, so it's got a very sprawling kind of a bush, you know, feel, but it's not like a heavy bush. It's kind of like almost like a tomato, not as big as a tomato. It's never going to get as big as a tomato, but it can get. For me, it was about 4 feet by about 3.5 feet tall, so you can get that big.
Do you have do you have to prune it once in a while?
You can, if you want to manage the height. And my father is on here too. Let me see if he's still on here. Dad, are you here? Yeah, he grows a ton of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he grows a ton of them. You know, it's a funny story with the goldenberry, because it's a fruit that I was really, really fond of because it makes super good jam. The jam is crazy good. And so I really missed it. And it was, you know, there was 2 fruits that I've been wanting for a super long time. One was goldenberry and one was falsa. And I never thought that I would have them, but it's funny that the goldenberry just appeared in my front yard one year. It just appeared out of nowhere. I don't know where the hell it came from, but I was, I guess, wishing really strongly, and so it came. And I took those seeds and I think I gave them to my dad, because at that point nobody even knew what goldenberry was over here. So yeah, it was fun. So now he's been growing it, and now I've taken it back from him again. So
but
it's interesting.
Excuse me, the physalis, I guess I don't know how you pronounce it. You know, I'm from Peru, and we have the aguaymanto. Is you know, are you familiar with the aguaymanto?
No, I'm not.
It's kind of like the goldenberry. Yeah, like the goldenberry, but there was a university somewhere in the back east that they were giving seeds, physalis. I don't know how you pronounce it, Physlilis or something like that. And I thought that was the golden berry. That's why I purchased it from you, you know. But I
Oh,
mean,
okay. Well, hopefully it tastes similar to what you're talking about. Otherwise, we'll have to get you wishing really hard. Maybe it'll appear.
no, I'm happy with it. You know, I'm gonna see experiment and see how it comes out. You know.
Oh, good, good. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Have a good evening.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
All right.
Thank you, Farmer Manchu.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Dad.
We're gonna
there
have
you
like
are.
we're gonna have some materials that we can retrieve from the website or something.
I think this is going to be recorded.
Yeah,
So,
I will send the recording out in a few days.
yes.
Oh,
And I
okay,
think
thank you.
Evelyn, you also shared the seed catalog thing again, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone.
you.
And happy fall garden for you guys all.
thank,
Enjoy. Okay. Take care.
thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.